In downtown Los Angeles, where concrete melts under the summer sun, a man named Brandon stands before the corner cafe. His weathered hands tremble, throat parched from days without water. Through the spotless windows, he watches well-dressed patrons sip their iced drinks. A simple request for water becomes a moment that changes everything when an unexpected hero steps in, one whose kindness sparks a revolution of compassion in the heart of the city. The glass door of the corner cafe swings open with a gentle chime. Brandon steps inside, his worn boots leaving faint dusty prints on the polished marble floor. The cool air hits his sun-beaten face, a stark contrast to the blistering heat outside. His military jacket, now threadbare and faded, hangs loose on his frame. 3 days without food have taken their toll. The morning rush quiets as heads turn. A businessman pulls his briefcase closer. A young mother shields her child's eyes. The aroma of fresh pastries and premium coffee hangs heavy in the air, a reminder of luxuries now far beyond Brandon's reach. Joey, the cafe manager, emerges from behind the counter. Her pressed uniform and perfectly styled hair broadcast authority and sophistication. Her heels click against the floor as she approaches Brandon, maintaining a calculated distance. The security guard by the door straightens, hand moving to his radio. Brandon raises his palms, a gesture of peace. His voice comes out rough, but gentle. His request is simple: a glass of water. The heat outside has become unbearable, and the public fountain 2 blocks away isn't working. He hasn't had a drink since yesterday afternoon. Joey's response cuts through the air like ice. The cafe's policy is clear: paying customers only. Her words carry rehearsed politeness, but her meaning is unmistakable. She gestures toward the door, suggesting several fast food establishments that might be more appropriate for his needs. A few customers shift uncomfortably in their seats. An elderly man half rises, then sinks back down, his hand still gripping his wallet. A college student typing on her laptop pretends to be absorbed in her screen, though her fingers have stopped moving. Brandon nods slowly, dignity intact despite the humiliation. His weathered face shows no anger, only resignation. He's learned to expect these reactions, though each one still stings. As he turns to leave, his combat boots scuff against the floor, a sound that echoes in the unnaturally quiet space. Behind the counter, a young barista named Amy watches with wide eyes, her hand hovering over an empty glass. She glances at Joey, then at Brandon's retreating figure, caught between compassion and company policy. The water pitcher in her hand feels impossibly heavy. The cafe's door chimes again as Brandon pushes it open. The blast of hot air that enters serves as a reminder of the harsh world he's being sent back into. Through the window, customers watch as he pauses on the sidewalk, gathering strength for another long day of survival. The usual chatter slowly resumes inside. Espresso machines were back to life. Phones ping with notifications. Joey straightens a stack of menus, her movements precise and controlled. But something has shifted in the atmosphere, a subtle undercurrent of collective shame that no amount of premium coffee can wash away. Just as normalcy threatens to return, the door chimes once more. A tall figure enters, casual in jeans and a black t-shirt, but carrying an unmistakable presence. The cafe falls silent again, this time for an entirely different reason. Time seems to slow as Keanu Reeves steps into the corner cafe. No dramatic entrance, no fanfare. Just a man in well-worn motorcycle boots and a black t-shirt that's seen better days. His presence fills the space without demanding it, a quiet intensity that draws every eye in the room. He pauses at the threshold, taking in the scene before him. Through the window, Brandon's retreating figure is still visible, shoulders hunched against the unrelenting sun. Keanu's dark eyes track between the homeless man outside and Joey's rigid posture behind the counter, reading the situation with the insight of someone who remembers harder times. Years ago, before the fame and fortune, Keanu knew what it meant to count pennies for a meal. His mother worked multiple jobs, moving their family between different cities, different countries. The memory of those struggles sits deep in his bones, a constant reminder that the line between comfort and desperation is thinner than most people imagine. Joey's professional smile falters as Keanu approaches the counter. His expression carries no judgment, but his question lands with the weight of a gavel. The man who just left, what did he ask for? The cafe manager's explanation comes out stilted, wrapped in corporate policy and liability concerns. Each word seems to wither under Keanu's steady gaze. The other customers, previously so eager to return to their routines, find themselves holding their breath. Amy, the young barista, clutches the still empty water glass. Her voice breaks through the tension, barely above a whisper. He only wanted water. Just water. The simple truth of it hangs in the air, stripping away the veneer of justification. Keanu turns toward the door, his movement carrying purpose. "I'll be right back," he says, the words carrying a gentle authority that brooks no argument. The bell chimes as he exits into the heat, leaving behind a wake of whispered recognition and uncomfortable self-reflection. Through the window, patrons watch as he catches up to Brandon. There's no condescension in his approach, no dramatic gesture for the audience inside. Just two men talking on a sidewalk, one listening with complete attention as the other speaks. Minutes pass. The espresso machine hisses. Phones remain untouched. Joey stands frozen behind the counter, her carefully maintained world shifting beneath her feet. Outside, Keanu places a hand on Brandon's shoulder, guiding him back toward the cafe. The door opens again. This time, Brandon enters alongside Keanu, no longer a trespasser but a guest. The actor's voice carries clearly, "2 bottles of water, please. And whatever my friend here would like to eat." His words transform the space, challenging everyone present to see Brandon through new eyes. Joey moves mechanically toward the cooler, but Keanu raises his hand. "Actually," he says, "I think we'll sit down first. Take our time with the menu." He gestures to a table, not hidden in a corner, but right in the center of the cafe, a space impossible to ignore. As they settle into their seats, Keanu's actions speak volumes. No grand speeches, no public shaming. Instead, he demonstrates something more powerful: the simple act of treating another human being with dignity. His fame adds weight to the lesson, but it's his humanity that truly commands the room. Amy appears at their table, water pitcher in hand, before Joey can intervene. She pours 2 glasses with steady hands, her small act of defiance supported by Keanu's approving nod. Around them, the atmosphere in the cafe transforms, as if everyone is suddenly aware of participating in a moment that matters. The morning sun streams through the windows, illuminating dust motes in golden shafts. In this light, Brandon's weathered face shows not just hardship, but wisdom and resilience. Keanu leans forward, giving his full attention as Brandon begins to speak, his voice growing stronger with each word. Joey watches from behind the counter as Brandon takes his first sip of water, her manicured nails digging into her palms. The morning's events replay in her mind: her swift dismissal, her robotically delivered policy speech. Each memory feels like a weight pressing against her chest, growing heavier by the minute. The cafe's usual morning soundtrack continues: the clinking of cups, the whir of the coffee grinder, the tap of laptops. But beneath these familiar notes runs a new current of tension. Joey notices how her regular customers steal glances at Brandon and Keanu's table, their expressions a mix of celebrity awe and dawning shame. Amy moves between tables with a new confidence, her earlier hesitation replaced by purpose. She places a menu before Brandon with the same care she shows her highest tipping regulars. The young barista's small act of defiance triggers something in Joey, a memory of her first day in food service, 15 years ago, when she swore she'd never become one of those jaded managers who forgot the human side of the business. Brandon's voice carries softly across the cafe as he speaks to Keanu. His words paint a picture of a life upended: 3 tours in Afghanistan, a PTSD diagnosis, a system that failed him when he needed it most. His hands, steady from years of military training, wrap around the water glass like it's something precious. Joey remembers how she'd seen those same hands earlier, raised in surrender, asking for nothing but basic dignity. The businessman who'd pulled his briefcase closer now slips it under his table, out of sight. The mother who'd shielded her child's eyes is listening intently, her daughter watching Brandon with unguarded curiosity. The college student has stopped pretending to type, her laptop screen dimming from inactivity. A regular customer, Thomas, who comes in every morning for his triple-shot espresso, approaches Joey at the counter. His words come out quiet, meant for her ears only: "I've been coming here for 3 years. Never knew we had a policy about water." The gentle rebuke in his tone makes her cheeks burn. Joey's carefully constructed professional walls begin to crack. Each brick, built from corporate training sessions, liability concerns, and misguided assumptions, crumbles as she watches the scene unfold. Brandon isn't a threat to her cafe's ambience. He's a mirror reflecting how far she's strayed from her own humanity. Keanu's presence serves as a catalyst, but it's Brandon's dignity that transforms the space. He speaks without bitterness, sharing stories of brotherhood forged in combat and the disorienting return to civilian life. His words reach into the corners of the cafe, touching something universal in each person present. The fundamental need for connection, for understanding, for basic human kindness. The morning sun climbs higher, sending shafts of light through the cafe's windows. In this illumination, Joey sees her establishment with new eyes. The polished surfaces and premium prices suddenly seem like poor substitutes for genuine warmth. The policy she'd wielded like a shield now feels like a barrier, not protecting her business, but isolating it from its community. Amy returns to the counter, her eyes meeting Joey's with a mixture of challenge and hope. The young barista's earlier act of courage hangs between them, a reminder that sometimes the right choice requires breaking old patterns. Joey straightens her shoulders, smooths her apron, and makes a decision that will reshape the corner cafe forever. She steps out from behind the counter, each click of her heels on the marble floor marking the distance between who she was an hour ago and who she's choosing to become. As she approaches Brandon and Keanu's table, the cafe seems to hold its breath. Her rehearsed manager's mask slips away, revealing something more genuine underneath. "I apologize," she says, the words carrying the weight of true remorse. "I was wrong." 3 simple phrases that cost nothing but mean everything. Brandon looks up, his weathered face showing surprise, then understanding. Keanu watches the exchange with quiet approval, but it's the small smile that crosses Brandon's face that tells Joey she's finally done something right. In this moment of vulnerability, the corner cafe begins its own transformation. The invisible barriers between comfortable patrons and the struggling souls outside start to dissolve. The space fills with something new, not just the aroma of premium coffee and fresh pastries, but the warmth of rekindled humanity. The breakfast crowd thins as morning stretches toward noon, but Brandon and Keanu remain deep in conversation. Joey has moved their empty plates, replacing them with fresh coffee. The bitter aroma mingles with Brandon's unfolding story, a tale that transforms the corner cafe into something more than just another trendy downtown establishment. Brandon speaks of his childhood in Montana, where endless wheat fields touched the horizon. His father worked the same farm for 40 years, teaching him the value of persistence and hard work. The military seemed a natural choice after high school, a chance to serve while earning money for college. His weathered hands trace patterns on the table's surface as he describes his first deployment. "Afghanistan changed everything," Brandon explains, his voice steady but distant. "Our unit specialized in community relations. We built schools, restored water supplies, helped local farmers." He pauses, fingers tightening around his coffee cup. "Then came the ambush. Lost 3 of my closest friends. The memories, they follow you home." Keanu listens with complete attention, his presence drawing out Brandon's story without pressure. The actor's own experiences with loss and grief create an unspoken bridge of understanding. When Brandon describes the nightmares that made civilian work impossible, Keanu's slight nod acknowledges the weight of unseen battles. The conversation shifts to the system meant to support veterans. Brandon describes the labyrinth of paperwork, the endless waiting rooms, the well-meaning but overwhelmed case workers. His PTSD diagnosis came too late, after he'd lost his job, his apartment, his connections to normal life. The streets became his new battlefield, each day a struggle for survival. "The hardest part isn't the hunger or the weather," Brandon admits, his voice dropping. "It's becoming invisible. People look through you, past you, anywhere but at you. After a while, you start to wonder if you're really there at all." Keanu's response carries the weight of genuine understanding. "You're not invisible anymore." He reaches into his jacket, pulling out not just a business card, but a promise of change. The card belongs to Michael Shannon, director of a veteran rehabilitation program Keanu has supported for years. Joey, who has been quietly ensuring their privacy while managing the cafe, notices Keanu writing something on the back of the card. Her perspective has shifted so dramatically that when she sees Brandon's hands trembling slightly as he accepts it, she no longer sees a threat to her establishment's atmosphere. She sees a man on the verge of reclaiming his life. "The program provides immediate housing," Keanu explains, his tone practical rather than patronizing. "But more importantly, they understand what you've been through. The staff includes veterans who've walked similar paths. They'll help navigate the VA system, provide counseling, job training, whatever you need. The actor's phone appears next, his fingers moving swiftly over the screen as he sends messages to his network. Each text represents another piece of support falling into place: transportation, immediate necessities, medical attention. The machinery of privilege and fame turns its gears not for publicity, but for genuine change. Amy approaches with fresh coffee, her earlier nervousness replaced by quiet determination. She's removed her name tag, and her next words explain why. "My brother served in Kandahar. He didn't make it back. But you did, Mr. Brandon. You survived. That matters." The young barista's words crack something open in the cafe's atmosphere. A gentleman from a corner table approaches, introducing himself as a hiring manager at a local security firm. The college student mentions her father's real estate company, which offers veterans housing assistance. Each person who steps forward weaves another thread of support into Brandon's future. Keanu observes this spontaneous community building with quiet satisfaction. His celebrity status sparked the initial change, but the genuine human connections forming now have their own momentum. He catches Joey's eye, and her transformed expression tells him she understands. The corner cafe isn't just witnessing a moment of kindness, it's becoming a nexus of lasting change. Brandon sits straighter in his chair, his military bearing returning as hope rebuilds his strength. The water glass that started everything sits empty before him, no longer a symbol of denial but of transformation. His voice grows stronger as he engages with each person who approaches, his natural leadership qualities emerging from beneath years of hardship. The discussion turns practical. Keanu ensures that Brandon understands each step of what's to come: the intake process at the rehabilitation center, the immediate medical care for his untreated injuries, the counseling sessions that will help him process his trauma. The actor's thoroughness reveals his deep familiarity with veteran support systems, born from years of quiet philanthropy. "You're not alone in this fight anymore, brother," Keanu says, the simple words carrying the weight of a solemn vow. The term brother isn't casual. It's a recognition of the warrior spirit that survived against impossible odds, a spirit now ready to turn survival into revival. As the lunch crowd begins to filter in, the energy in the corner cafe has fundamentally shifted. What began as a desperate request for water has become a watershed moment, transforming not just one life but an entire community's understanding of responsibility, compassion, and the power of simple human dignity. News travels fast in downtown Los Angeles. By early afternoon, the corner cafe buzzes with an energy that transcends the usual coffee-fueled hustle. Joey stands at her usual spot behind the counter, but her posture has changed. Gone is the rigid manager's stance, replaced by an open alertness that welcomes rather than judges. The local news van parked outside draws curious onlookers. Inside, regulars share the morning's events with newcomers, each retelling adding layers of understanding. The story spreads through social media, not because of Keanu's celebrity, but because of its raw humanity. People share not just what happened, but how it made them feel: the shock of recognition, the uncomfortable self-reflection, the hope for change. Thomas, the morning regular with his triple-shot espresso, has spent his lunch break making calls. As a business consultant, his network runs deep through the city's corporate landscape. He approaches Joey with a proposal, a program to provide job training and employment opportunities for veterans, using the corner cafe as a starting point. Amy's initiative blossoms in unexpected ways. She creates a simple sign for the counter: "Veterans Coffee Corner. Pay what you can." Joey not only approves it but expands the idea, designating a table near the window as a permanent space for veterans to find community and support. The spot where Brandon first stood, asking for water, becomes a symbol of transformation. The cafe's regular customers step up in ways that surprise even themselves. The college student, Lisa, organizes a study group of law students to provide free legal aid for veterans navigating benefit claims. The mother who had shielded her child's eyes now teaches her daughter about compassion, making regular donations to the veteran support program Keanu recommended. Joey's phone rings constantly. Other cafe owners in the area want to know more about implementing similar programs. The local Chamber of Commerce expresses interest in citywide initiatives. What started as one man's request for water swells into a movement of community responsibility. By late afternoon, the security company manager returns with paperwork. His firm has created 3 new positions specifically for veterans in their training program. The real estate agent has contacted veterans housing organizations, bridging gaps between available resources and those who need them most. The transformation extends beyond programs and policies. Conversations at tables shift from casual chatter to meaningful dialogue. People share stories of their own family members who served, of struggles hidden behind proud facades, of chances to help that they'd missed before today. Local homeless veterans, hearing through their own networks about the morning's events, begin to appear at the cafe's door. Joey greets each one personally, ensuring they receive not just water but real assistance. Amy coordinates with nearby restaurants to provide meals, creating a network of support that grows stronger with each passing hour. The cafe's atmosphere has fundamentally changed. The invisible barriers between social classes dissolve as businesspeople share tables with veterans, students offer assistance with paperwork, and tourists witness a community redefining itself. The premium coffee and artisanal pastries remain, but they're no longer the heart of the establishment. A reporter interviews Joey, asking about the cafe's dramatic policy change. Her response comes from a place of genuine transformation. We didn't change our policies. We remembered our humanity. Everything else followed naturally from that. The impact reaches beyond the corner cafe's walls. Other businesses in the area begin examining their own practices. A grocery store starts a veterans discount program. A clothing shop initiates a professional wardrobe service for job seekers. Each action builds upon the last, creating a web of support where there had been only indifference. As evening approaches, Joey receives an unexpected call from corporate headquarters. She braces for criticism but instead finds support. The company's CEO, moved by the day's events, announces a nationwide initiative to make all their cafes veteran-friendly spaces. The policy that had once been a barrier becomes a bridge. The corner cafe closes later than usual that night. The staff stays to organize donations, arrange furniture for the new Veterans Corner, and create information packets about local resources. The space that had prided itself on exclusivity now measures its worth by its capacity for inclusion. Amy's last task before leaving is to fill a row of water glasses along the counter. Each glass catches the evening light, transformed from a simple vessel into a symbol of renewed humanity. Tomorrow, they will serve not just water, but hope, one glass at a time.